following video is not made for kids. Viewer discretion is advised. Hello to my subscribers. This is the TFN Geek coming to you with what will hopefully be a successful review. And today we're going to be taking a look at the Transformers Legacy United Amazon exclusive Doom and Destra auction collection. This is the two figures of Prime Universe Breakdown and Generation 1 Windsweeper. And yeah, this is the second set in the Doom and Destruction collection to be released exclusively through Amazon.com. The first was the box set that contained the Generation 1 Deluxe Class Insecticons. I will get around to reviewing that set. But first I want to take a look at this set because from the feedback I've seen from most collectors, I'm with the minority group in that out of all the figures that have been released in the Doom and Destruction set so far, one of the ones I was most excited for, at least out of this 2-pack, was Prime Universe Breakdown. I originally was going to get this set just for that figure, and it wasn't until I read up on who Windsweeper is I realized both figures are must-haves for anyone's collection. So here's the logo on the top of the box for the Doom and Destruction collection. You've got this alien squid with a bunch of red tentacles coming out, and those red tentacles are the ones seen here all over the box. And apparently the Transformers figures that are being released in the Doom and Destruction collection have a brand new faction symbol, which is based off of this alien squid. So far there's no backstory or accompanying comic to explain what the new faction is, or if it'll expand into anything later on. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So you got some artwork here for Windsweeper and Breakdown, and just like the Transformers, the Walmart exclusive Legacy Evolution Toxitron collection figures, which I'm pointing at Toxitron himself back there. The artwork for the Doom and Destruction figures, instead of being the more like three-dimensional CGI images used on the box art of other Transformers figures, such as the Commander class figures there of Motormaster and Armada Optimus Prime, the box art here is a more traditional two-dimensional hand-drawn animation like you would see on comic strips or Saturday morning cartoons. So that's a interesting choice there on Hasbro and Takara Tomi's part. So on the opposite side of the box, you've got close-ups of the faces of the two figures you get inside. Alright, so yeah, really nice artwork there of Windsweeper and Breakdown. Now, coming on here to the back of the box, you've got your product photos. Windsweeper transforms back and forth between robot mode and jet mode in 14 steps, and Breakdown transforms back and forth between robot mode and truck mode in 30 steps. And Windsweeper and Breakdown, for those of you who've been collecting the Transformers Legacy action figures, they are both repaints of previously released Transformers figures. Windsweeper is a repaint with a new head sculpt of Legacy Needlenose, and Prime Universe Breakdown is a repaint with a new head sculpt of Legacy Bulkhead. And because Windsweeper is a repaint of Needlenose, he comes with two Target Masters done in entirely silver paint. They're brand new characters according to the Transformers Wikipedia. Their names are Decepticon Ozone and Clean Sweep. And the reason why they're done in silver is because Windsweeper is one of 3 Decepticons that made up a subgroup of Transformers known as the Triggercons in the Generation 1 line. The Triggercons basically had these gimmicks where they had these weapons that would automatically flip out, and they would have extra cannons. And on Generation 1 Windsweeper, the missiles underneath his wings would flip out and become giant cannons, and they were done in entirely silver paint. And so that's what Clean Sweep and Ozone are designed to replicate, are the silver flip-out guns that Windsweeper's Generation 1 action figure had. A lot of Transformers fans and collectors are kind of actually disappointed that Windsweeper has been given repaints of Needlenose's 2 Target Masters, since they don't have any articulation in robot mode, and many Transformers fans and collectors consider Needlenose's Target Masters to be the worst Target Masters ever released. So a lot of Transformers fans and collectors would have preferred if Windsweeper had been given an actual pair of laser guns and then the Target Masters themselves. But all things considered, I can kind of see why Hasbro and Takara Tomy did it. It's saving money and cutting costs. But I don't think it's one where it necessarily turned out that too bad. So for those of you wanting Windsweeper to remain a member of the Trigger Cons, of which the other two members of the Trigger Cons besides Windsweeper are Crankcase, who got a deluxe figure that was released at mass retail during the Legacy Evolution line last year in 2023, and the third Trigger Con is Ruckus, who has been announced to be released in. He's going to be given a new deluxe class figure and being released in a 2-pack with Bludgeon at some point before the Legacy United line ends, hopefully. Yeah, whether or not the 2-pack with Bludgeon and Ruckus is going to be a third Doom and Destruction Action Collection set is uncertain at this point, but yeah, I'm really excited for that set, and primarily for Ruckus just to complete the trio of Decepticon Trigger Cons. And so, Windsweeper has become both a Trigger Con and a double Target Master now. But overall, I can't really fault Hasbro and Takara for this because, according to the Transformers Wikipedia, this is only the second action figure that Windsweeper has been given during the 40 years of the Transformers franchise, the other one being his Generation 1 Trigger Con figure that was released back in, I believe, 1988. 8 was the year the Trigger Cons were released. East, and as for a Prime breakdown, a lot of Transformers fans and collectors are really disappointed with this figure. They were hoping that when we would finally get, or if we ever got, a Chug-style version of the Prime version of Breakdown, that it would be a figure that will more closely resemble his original Prime figure that was released exclusively by Takara Tomy back in 2012. And a lot of Transformers fans and collectors were hoping that. I've seen a lot of collectors say that Windsweeper, they wish that Hasbro and Takara Tomy would have given him new wings to differentiate him further than from Needlenose. And also with Breakdown, a lot of fans and collectors are hoping that for the canvas cover for the truck mode, which becomes a shield and robot mode, a lot of fans and collectors are hoping that Hasbro and Takara Tomy would have designed something new to make Breakdown look more like an armored truck than a personnel carrier truck. Just to differentiate him further from Legacy Bulkhead. But yeah, the only differences between these two figures and Bulkhead and Needlenose are the head sculpts. So for many Transformers fans and collectors, Breakdown being a repaint of Bulkhead, he's an even bigger letdown than Bulkhead himself was. I've seen some more critical fans criticize the figure for that. But all things considered, I can't hate it. I'm just thrilled to have another action figure of the Transformers Prime version of Breakdown in my collection. And I have a feeling that Hasbro and Takara Tomy will design a more accurate version of the Prime Bulk Breakdown figure someday. Since this figure is kind of like what I like to call a half-hearted update to the original Prime Breakdown figure. And that's pretty much all there is to say. Windsweeper is basically a Red, Ed, and Tant and repaint of Needlenose, and Breakdown's a blue repaint of Bulkhead. Ed, but if you can look past that, I think they're both pretty fantastic Transformers figures to have regardless. So without further delay, let's get these guys out of the box and take a close look at them both in the modes that they come packaged in, which I believe are their robot modes. Alright, and so here they are out of the box. Here is Windsweeper, and here is Prime Breakdown, and for being repaints with new head sculpts of Bulkhead and Needlenose, I gotta say they are pretty impressive looking Transformers figures. Legacy Bulkhead hasn't been my favorite Voyager class figure from the Legacy line, but I have enjoyed Needlenose quite a bit. So Windsweeper's really nice to be done in that mold as well. And I don't care what people say, I prefer Breakdown over Bulkhead with this mold since I like the dark blue used on him more than the bright green that's used on Bulkhead. So yeah, here they are side by side with each other, and there's a quick glance at Windsweeper's two partners, Clean Sweep and Ozone. Not much excitement to them since their robot modes they don't have no articulation at all. So yeah, not much to be seen with them there. Again, the only difference between these guys and the figures they're retooled from are the head sculpts. So there's Windsweeper's face and there's Breakdown's face, and I love how accurate that is to breakdowns designed from the Prime line. For a while, I thought it was the same head sculpt used on the original Prime Breakdown figure, but then someone pointed out that if you look really closely, they actually gave Prime Breakdown an actual nose, which the characters from Transformers Prime were infamous for, were not having actually having noses on their faces. So to see Prime Breakdown with that is interesting, to say the least. So as far as weapons go, oh, again, Windsweeper comes with the exact same target masters that came with Needlenose. Oh, is a Clean Sweep and Ozone, or repaints of uh, Needlenose's two target masters, Zigzag and Solar Flare. Here, for break for breakdown, he comes with the exact same weapons that came with Legacy Bulkhead. You've got the laser gun and the wrecking ball, and on the instruction sheet, and the images for Prime Breakdown, it shows that you're supposed to attach the laser gun here to the top of his shoulder, and that is accurate to a shoulder cannon that Breakdown would sometimes pop out and use in the Transformers Prime cartoon. The original Voyager class Prime Breakdown figure didn't come with a shoulder cannon, even though there's a 5mm peg hole, well, that will allow you to insert the the 5mm weapon onto his shoulder. And of course, just like he used in the just like the similar to the original Prime Breakdown figure, Legacy Prime Breakdown has a sledgehammer here, and the reason why it's angled on the backside here is because it's the original Prime Breakdown figure. The sledgehammer was actually a partner robot known as an Arms Micron, and the Karatomi exclusive Transformers Prime action figures, their weapons transformed into robots. So they're almost like Target Masters, Micromasters, and Minicons all wrapped up into one. And Breakdown's Arms Micron partner, whose name I believe was Zanu, I believe was his name. He basically transformed from Breakdown Sledgehammer into a tiny little rhino. I know, so Breakdown has an actual dedicated non-transforming sledgehammer here, which is kind of bittersweet. Some people have said that it looks a little bit like the Wrecker's hammer. Some have said that it looks like the hammer that's the Forge of Solus Prime. But however way you look at it, it's a sledgehammer, and yeah, it's Breakdown's one new weapon that just helps to distinguish him further from Bulkhead. Here's a close-up of that new faction symbol for the Transformers really being released in the Doom and Destruction collection. Again, it's the same tentacled alien that is on the Doom and Destruction logo. Looking around at Prime Breakdown, I don't see him having any actual Decepticon faction symbols on him, and I just made a liar myself. He has the only Decepticon faction symbols Breakdown has are right here on what are the doors of his vehicle mode. That's the same spot where the Decepticon logos on the original Prime Breakdown were located, so nice dedication to the original figure having the Decepticon logos in the same place where they are in alt mode. And of course, Windsweeper has a huge Decepticon logo there on the center of his chest. As again, the only so because he's a straight up repaint of Needlenose, you can do the same gimmick with Windsweeper, where you can attach him to the tops of the two Legacy Evolution leader class figures of Prime Skyquake and Prime Dreadwing, who I haven't reviewed yet, but hopefully I'll be able to review them in the coming weeks. But yeah, there's a Breakdown and Windsweeper side by side with each other, and they are a pretty nasty looking team of Decepticons. And now for the part of the review that I know you guys all enjoy, size comparisons. So, for some size comparisons for Windsweeper, here he is next to his old mate Legacy Needlenose. And again, the only difference between these two figures are the different head sculpts used on them. And I gotta say, Windsweeper really is impressive looking. The color palette between the two of them, it's not quite as similar as you might think looking at it at first glance. Here, these what they look like from the back. So yeah, they really do have some differentiating looking at paint jobs from each other. So that is really nice comparison of them. And for one more size comparison, here is Windsweeper next to one of his fellow Trigger Cons. Here is Legacy Crankcase. Ace. So we've got 2 of the 3 G1 Trigger Cons released so far, and I showed off in my review of Crankcase that he has these 2 tiny little cannons here that end up on the back of his shoulders. That was a callback to the G1 Trigger Con gimmick, and so for Windsweeper, having the target Needlenose's target masters, it's not quite as G1 accurate as most collectors would have hoped, but I personally don't care. I just enjoy having it. So yeah, putting Needlenose off to the side. Alright, so we've got 2 of the 3 G1 Trigger Cons. Once Ruckus gets released, then we'll have the Trigger Con team complete. So there's Windsweeper next to Crankcase. And now the figure that's my personal favorite of this set, Prime Breakdown. For some size comparisons, here he is next to the figure he's mold mates with, which is Legacy Prime Universe Bulkhead. And when this figure came out, a lot of Transformers fans and collectors were upset at how inaccurate that Bulkhead was compared to his original Prime figure. I went around telling everyone that it's not actually Prime Bulkhead. It's supposed to be a Generation 1 Bulkhead who technically doesn't exist. Yes, so this is what Bulkhead would have looked like had he been a Generation 1 character back in the 1980s. So, why in the world Hasbro and Tomy decided to go with using the Bulkhead mold to make a new updated figure of Prime Breakdown, I honestly cannot say. But between the paint jobs and the new head sculpts, Breakdown does differentiate from Bulkhead slightly, and the new head sculpt, it makes Breakdown, it's really hard to tell, but the new head sculpt makes Breakdown's head sit about 1 centimeter taller than Bulkhead does, so it's not just an optical illusion that I'm creating by having the canvas sit on Breakdown's back as a backpack, and Bulkhead having his on his arm. Breakdown is is about 1, maybe 2 millimeters taller than Bulkhead is, so it's really interesting how the new head sculpt adds 1.5 millimeters of height to Breakdown. And and the main reason I have the Riot Shield on Breakdown's back is because having it like this, it allows you to make him look a little more like his original Prime figure, where he had the Prime version of Breakdown. He basically, in his robot mode, his appearance, he looked kind of like a hunched back robot, where he was all muscle but little brains. And so having the Riot Shield on his back helps to further make him look closer to that original figure. And speaking of that original Prime Breakdown figure, here it is. Here is the original Prime Breakdown action figure. And so here as you can see is what I was talking about, where Breakdown, Hasbro and Tomy gave him a kind of hunched back appearance where his head doesn't sit on the top of his body, his back actually does, so he's kind of hunched down, and so the idea is that Breakdown is all muscle and no brain. But he's not stupid. He is a Decepticon of, I want to say, average intelligence, so he's not he's not entirely dumb. But considering the fact that the make it or break it deal with this box set is not necessarily Windsweeper either, but for its Breakdown, because the original Prime Breakdown figure, his alt mode is a 4-wheeled armored truck, the types that deliver money to banks. And so for Hasbro and Tomy to have him go from a 4-wheeled armored truck to a 6-wheeled troop transport truck, it's a bit of a difference that it's a drastically different alt mode that I think a lot of Transformers fans and collectors haven't been too excited or thrilled to receive. And I think some Transformers fans and collectors would have preferred if Hasbro and Tomy had just re-released the original Prime Breakdown figure once again, and like Hasbro did back in 2022 at Hasbro Pulse for the 10th anniversary of Transformers Prime. But yeah, here's Legacy Prime Bulkhead next to the original Voyager-class Prime Bulkhead figure. And for one more special size comparison, here he is next to his partner in crime and grime. Here he is next to Leagcy E Prime Knockout. So here's the gruesome twosome from Transformers Prime united once again. And they're both repaints of previously released figures. They aren't original molds, which ironically their original Prime figures are both original molds. Knockout is a repaint and retool of the Studio Series 86 Jazz. He even has the same wheels when he's transformed into alt mode. And so one thing that I am kind of disappointed out is that just like their original Prime action figures, Knockout was released at mass retail, but Poor Breakdown has once again been released as an exclusive instead of at mass retail. So will the day ever come when the Prime Breakdown when will the day ever come when he gets a action figure released at mass retail? I honestly cannot say, but it's a trend that unfortunately has continued with the Legacy line and his first Chug style action figure. But overall, I'm just really happy that I was able to get a hold of both of these figures. And Knockout was released over a year ago in the Legacy Evolution line. I know he's actually released almost 2 years ago in the Legacy Year 1 line. So the wait was worth it for Breakdown to finally arrive here, and bringing back the original Prime Breakdown figure here. Here, let's just, for the fun of it, go full circle, and we'll also bring out the original Prime Knockout. So here's the Chug style figures versus the OG figures from Transformers Prime. So as you can see, they're the attempt by Hasbro and Takara Tomi's part to have these figures to update Knockout and Breakdown. They had a lot more success with Knockout than they did with Breakdown. In a lot of the promotional images, the only minor nitpick I truly have with Legacy Prime Breakdown is that the shade of blue that's used on him is not the same shade of solid blue plastic used on the original Prime Breakdown figure. And in some of the promotional product shots and product photos, it almost made it look like he was the same shade of blue as the original Prime figure. But the fact that he's this more muted blue, like this muted metallic blue, it's visually it's not my favorite shade of blue, so that is a little bit of a letdown, but I can overlook it just because I'm fanboying over the fact that we now have a Chug style figure of Prime Breakdown. And I know that it's not entirely accurate to this figure, but again, I'm just really happy to finally have another Prime Breakdown figure in my Transformers collection, especially considering how rare the original figure is. And of course, there's the two sledgehammers side by side here. This one transforms into a robotic rhino. That one does not transform. So, for many Transformers fans and collectors, with this new figure here, the make it or break it deal is that are you just thrilled to have another action figure based on the Transformers Prime version of Breakdown, or because it doesn't look a thing like the original figure, do you consider it a disappointment and a letdown on Hasbro and Takara Tomi's part? So, I'll let you guys decide about that, but me personally, I keep repeating myself, but I honestly don't know why Transformers fans and collectors complain when figures aren't entirely accurate to the source material, because it gives us a chance to see what the characters would look like if they were in new forms, and if they were to make an appearance in another Transformers series, is how I've always viewed it. I won't go into the articulation too much on these guys, since I went through that with my reviews of Bulkhead and Needlenose. But as far as tolerances on the joints are, on Breakdown, some of his joints do feel a lot more loose than they do on Bulkhead. Same with Windsweeper, some of his joints that are tight on Needlenose, they're a little looser on him. But that's pretty much a look at them in robot modes. Let's get these guys transformed into their alt modes and wrap up the review. Alright, and so here are Prime Breakdown and Windsweeper in their alt modes. Windsweeper transforms into a mostly red and tan jet with his target masters hanging off the side of him, and that was how his Generation 1 TriggerCon figure worked was that the laser guns would kind of sit here on the side. Like this, and then the TriggerCon gimmick, you would push a button and then the laser gun will flip out forward like that. So Hasbro and Takara kind of sort of tried to at least replicate the look of that by having the two target masters painted all silver, but it's not entirely accurate. And so with Windsweeper, that's one of the make it or break it deals. Is if you enjoy the fact that he has all silver repaints of Needlenose's target masters. And again, for Prime Bulkhead, the only sculpted difference between him and Prime Breakdown and Bulkhead, I got their names switched, I think. But the only difference is the Robo Mode head sculpt. So in Alt Mode, he's the same. There's that new Doom and Destruction logo based off the alien that appears on the box. And so yeah, the make it or break it deal for this version of Prime Breakdown, this new figure, is that unlike the original figure, it's no longer a 4-wheeled armored truck. It's now a 6-wheeled army truck. That's a troop transport. Some collectors I've seen say they would have preferred if Hasbro and Takara would have designed a new metal armor backplate made for the Riot Shield instead of the canvas cover that was also used on Bulkhead. Okay, but it's at least I think it's a pretty neat looking vehicle mode for the Prime version of Breakdown. And again, there's his two Decepticon logos. They're more visible in Alt mode, and it's the exact same position. The Decepticon logos on his original Prime figure were on the side doors, on the sides of the doors of his Alt mode. The instruction sheets and the product photo on the photos on the box. The instructions tell you to just put Breakdown Sledgehammer on this Minicon port here on the side of the vehicle mode and call it a day. But if you want to give him as symmetrical of a look as possible in alt mode, you can flip out the 5mm peg that the figure uses when you use the canvas cover as a riot shield, and you can put the sledgehammer there on top. It's not entirely accurate to how the sledgehammer just plugged onto the roof of his original Prime figure, but it at least does but you do have that option if you want Legacy Prime Breakdown to have a symmetrical look to him. He doesn't roll quite well out of the box. I don't know if it's because transferring him for the first time, his panel sections haven't lined up properly. Just like Bulkhead, there's only a hairline of clearance space between the bottommost parts of the Romo kibble and the wheels themselves. So it doesn't roll quite well, unfortunately, here on my table, but at least you do have the option of rolling Breakdown. Windsweeper has no landing gear at all, just like Needlenose. But overall, I'm really thrilled with how these two figures came out. So setting Breakdown off to the side for a moment for some size comparisons and alt mode. Here is Windsweeper next to Needlenose, and again, because the only sculpted difference are the robot modes. The main difference they have between the two figures in jet mode are their paint jobs. But it is enough of a paint job difference, I think, that I can distinguish them from each other. And just like Breakdown, there's the new Doom and Destruction logos painted on Windsweeper's wings. So I hope Hasbro announces if it's a new faction or if it's just a rogue faction of Transform of Decepticons. But yeah, there's a Windsweeper next to Needlenose, and again, because he's a straight up repaint with the exception of the head. Windsweeper does have the same gimmick. We can plug him onto the top of Skyquake and Dreadwing, the leader class figures from the Legacy Evolution line. And if you want to just further distinguish Windsweeper from Needlenose, you can have the two target masters sit on opposite side of the wings from where you have them with Needlenose if you want. And for another size comparison of Windsweeper, here he is next to fellow TriggerCon Crankcase. So as soon as the 2-pack with Ruckus and Bludgeon gets released, once Ruckus gets released, then we'll have all three of the TriggerCons completed. So yeah, pretty nice looking comparison there of Windsweeper with one of his teammates and his mold mates. And bringing back Prime Breakdown for some size comparisons for him. Here he is next to his mold mate of Legacy Bulkhead. As you can see, it's just comparing Breakdown with Bulkhead. Bulkhead, it's just a blue version of Bulkhead. And like I said, I do prefer the mostly blue paint job here on Prime Breakdown versus Bulkhead. It's just visually, I think it looks a lot more menacing than Bulkhead's bright green that was used on here. Even though this is the shade of, even though trucks like this are seen green more often than any other color. But yeah, I just really like how they came out. If there's another minor nitpick I have with Prime Breakdown, I wish they would have at least painted his version of this mold with the hubcaps being silver, just to further distinguish him from Bulkhead. But again, that's just a minor nitpick. And yeah, overall, I do enjoy the breakdown use of this mold more than I do Bulkhead. Sitting off to the side, for a size comparison, here he is next to his partner in Crime and Grime. Here he is next to Legacy Prime Knockout, so you can see the Decepticon duo of destruction has been reunited once again in the Legacy line. And for another size comparison, here is the Legacy Prime Breakdown next to the original Prime Breakdown. So as you can see, the vehicle mode is the make it or break it deal with this figure. It's up to you if you can get over the fact that Breakdown is now, instead of a armored truck, he's now a troop transport truck. But hopefully someday we'll get a more dedicated figure base that transforms into the same alt mode the original Prime Breakdown action figure transforms into. And again, as you can see there's the Decepticon logos on the sides of the doors. So I do enjoy that Hasbro and Takara replicated that. And the Decepticon logos are stickers on the original figure, but unlike the other stickers that you have to apply yourself to the original Prime Breakdown figure, those were applied. The Decepticon logos were applied at the factory. Okay, and then once again, here's the new Sledgehammer with the Prime Breakdown's Micron Arms Micron partner. I believe Xanu was the name of Breakdown's Arms Micron partner. But yeah, there they are next to each other, almost the same sized Voyager class figures. The Prime Breakdown figure, he's considered a small sized Voyager compared to the other Voyagers that were released in the Prime line. So it's a bittersweet coincidence that these are almost the same size Voyager class figures. So there's Knockout again. And just to go full circle, let's also bring in the original Prime Knockout. So the Chug style figures versus the OG figures of Prime Breakdown and Knockout. As far as which sets are the better sets between the Chug and the OG figures, a lot of Transformers fans and collectors, from their attitudes, have said that the OG figures are the better of the two. For me personally, my favorites out of all four of them, I have to be honest, I do prefer the OG version of Breakdown slightly more than the Legacy figure, but for Knockout, I do prefer the Legacy figure more than the OG figure because it's simpler to transform, and sometimes when I transform the original OG Prime Knockout figure, the clear plastic parts feel like they're going to either break or snap when I transform him, so I feel much more comfortable transforming the new Legacy figure. And even though the transformation on the OG Breakdown figure is equally as complex as the Legacy Bulkhead figure, I feel much more, just like Knockout, I feel more comfortable transforming this figure. But I just love the shade of blue on the OG Breakdown figure, so for many Transformers fans and collectors, it's a no contest that the OG Prime Breakdown figure is the superior of the two. But in my opinion, the new figure is pretty decent, especially considering that it's a repaint of Bulkhead. And like I said, Hasbro and Takara may surprise us and design a brand new Chug figure of Prime Breakdown that looks more closer to his original Prime action figure here. So to wrap up the review with the proverbial question, do I recommend getting the Transformers Legacy United Amazon exclusive Doom and Destruction 2-pack of Windsweeper and Prime Bulkhead Absolutely, I do. You cannot go wrong having these two figures in your Transformers collection, even though they're repaints of Legacy Bulkhead and Needlenose. They're unique characters in their own right. I doubt we're going to get another action figure of Windsweeper in the near future due to the TriggerCon's subgroup name being one that is now considered these days a more violent one, especially compared to the 1980s when they were first named by Hasbro. But yeah, I do enjoy how Windsweeper turned out, and for many fans and collectors, Windsweeper is the selling figure of this set. But for me personally, I enjoy Prime Bulkhead as much as I do Windsweeper, so this set all around to me is a must-have for your collection. This new version of Prime Breakdown, it's along the lines of the new Legacy Knockout, where it's somewhat reminiscent of the original source material, but then it's trying to be its own unique thing. And for me personally, I think Hasbro and Cartoon managed to successfully find the blend of source material mixed in with new designs on this new Prime Bulkhead figure, but other collectors have said no. But for me personally, I don't care. I just enjoy having a new figure of this guy in my collection. And just to wrap up the review, you let's you let's have some chaos and bring all the figures out that I did size comparisons with. So here are all of them standing beside each other. So yeah, there's a lot of Transformers action figures that the two figures in this set are connected to. You'll hear the original figures, the mold mates, and the teammates. Yeah, these figures really are more than meets the eye. So, um, ending the chaos and ending the review on a more positive note. Out. This has been the TFN Geek, and thank you to all my subscribers for your continued support. And this has been my review of the Transformers Legacy United Doom and Destruction Windsweeper and Breakdown box set. I highly recommend getting this 2-pack if you can. It is an exclusive to Amazon here in the United States, so if you want to find it on other websites such as eBay, you will pay more than retail price for it. And this box set is not going to appear on the shelves of Walmart or Target stores anytime soon. I don't even think the Amazon exclusive figures show up at GameStop here in the US. Hopefully in countries where Amazon doesn't distribute Transformers action figures, you'll be able to get these at other sources. I know in some countries in Southeast Asia, Transformers figures that are released as exclusives in the United States are released at mass retail. But yeah, I highly recommend you pick up both these figures, and even if you aren't a fan of the Legacy Bulkhead mold, I highly recommend you give the new Prime Breakdown figure a chance, especially if you have a Legacy Knockout, because I think it's a pretty fantastic looking figure in its own right. So thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, you guys, this has been the TFN Geek, and remember, stay safe, stay healthy, transform and roll out. Goodbye, everyone.